What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 5, season 2 of What's Up, Bree. And today we will be tackling the discussion of mental health, mental illness. I decided to bring a special guest. I have a good friend of mine with me. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hello. So I'm Tempest Payton.
And you want to tell them a little background?
Okay, so I have a BSW and then I also have a master's in psychology. I have done some crisis work and I've also done some counseling.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have her on today's episode. I feel like mental health, mental illness is something that we don't talk about a lot in the African American community. Just watching her when I first met her, working with kids, adults, and things of that nature, as far as like social work, social development, I feel like she was the perfect person to come on this episode because she can give you the real raw opinion of what really goes on, how to spot signs, what you can do to help people that are around you. And I feel like it's just something that we just need to bring to the light and continue to hone in on as things progress. So we are going to jump into today's episode to get things going. So, of course, we always want to know a little bit about our guests. So, what made you interested in psychology?
So I guess I've always been the person that wanted to know why things occurred. I've always believed in a cause and effect. Like this person did this because, or like this situation occurred because. So that kind of made me want to dibble and dabble with the brain.
Okay. And I enjoy that because again, this is my friend outside of her having her masters, and we really have these in-depth conversations. When things happen, it's like, well, why did you feel like this happened? How did you react to it? How do you feel about it? So she, when it comes to that, she really does get to the nitty-gritty, and she will ask you like, okay, well, why did you do that? Or why did you think that was okay? So it's serious. So what are some things you learned throughout your studies that were new to you about mental illness?
Um, well, I guess it's a lot, but I'll just kind of narrow in on some things. One of the things that kind of caught my attention a lot is that we have a lot of people that are living with mental illness and they're like thriving. We have those that are CEOs that have severe depression, but they have found ways to cope with that. So it's not something that actually like halts your life or anything of that sort. So I thought that that was very much interesting because when you hear mental illness or mental health, you think of a person having like some kind of setback, like this is something that's going to stop them from attaining or reaching certain goals, and I found that not to be true.
Okay, because I do believe that as well. Like a lot of people think that, oh, if somebody has depression or anxiety, like they're sitting at home locked in a room, they don't want to be around people. But like you said, there are people out there that do have it. They're successful. They're able to thrive. They have degrees. They make good money. It's just something that they're able to get under control. And that's another thing that I feel like a lot of people don't know as well, because it's like, okay, just because you may have something like anxiety, depression, you can tackle it. You can live day to day. You can have a normal life. Don't look at everybody. I guess when people are like, oh, she crazy, or they try to give somebody a stigma or stamp them as, oh, they're crazy, or they can't get their ish together and things of that nature. So what are some of the signs that someone close to you may be battling with a mental illness?
So I guess that's one of the things that it's a broad statement. So given the fact that mental illness could be a number of things, it's based off the individual.
Okay.
So as far as we'll hone it in on depression, as far as say for instance, this friend loves the party. They every time you call them, they're ready. But now when you call them, they're kind of like, you know what, I can't make it. They're coming up with excuses, or you notice that the things that they love to do, they no longer love to do. And they're having these negative talks all the time. Like they could have been optimistic at a point,
Okay.
and then now they just a lot of self-defeated language. Like, I can't do this. This will never work for me. Like it looks good on you, but it wouldn't look good on me. Like those kind of things.
Okay. So basically, like not self sabotaging, but like not having belief that they can have a better life or accomplish things. So those are some of the signs that you guys need to look for. I know a lot of people kind of take things not to heat, they're not really listening to their friends when they talk. And I feel like a part of being a good friend is being able to notice and pinpoint those issues, because you guys are going to be the ones outside of family that may be able to assist this person with getting the help that they need, or they may not know that they need at the time. So that's definitely something, like she said, you guys should look out for. So if you have that friend that was real talkative and chatty and bubbly and outgoing, and something flips, you might want to kind of check in on them. So another question that I wanted to kind of pick your brain and ask was, what is a safe and respectful way to approach someone that you believe is battling with mental illness? Because of course we don't want to ever offend any of our friends or family.
Well, I guess the safest and respectful way to approach anyone, especially for somebody that is not like licensed, or that is not their background, is to just be genuine. Ask the person how they doing, how they week been going. And like you said, with listening to a person, you will figure out and you will hear and learn a lot. A person will tell you a lot without telling you a lot, basically, so if you notice that this person is not getting dressed a lot, or if you always come over their house and it's always clean, but it's not clean for weeks on end, and this person is always organized, but now they missing appointments, they're late often, like things of that sort. Hey, what's going on? Like, have anything changed lately? Or things of that sort, where you are giving that care, but you asking those questions too, opposed to, do you feel depressed? Because most people will say no.
Right. So don't offend your friends. Make sure that it's genuine. Make sure that you are telling them, hey, I'm here for you. Do you need anything? Be gentle. Okay. Don't come at somebody crazy. I've seen things on social media to where even celebrities have had mental breakdowns, and then you just see people in the comments and they're trolling them, and it's like, oh, she crazy, or look at what she's doing this week. Somebody get her some help. That's rude. That's not a way that you should handle somebody that's already probably in a fragile state of mind. So just, if you are genuine about it, be genuine. Don't be asshole. So another thing that I wanted to ask was, how does someone get diagnosed with the mental health disorder such as depression or anxiety?
Okay, so depression and anxiety are two of the mental illnesses that could be mistaken for one another, or they could run course together.
Okay.
So it is an individual base. One of the things is a couple things for depression is like hopelessness.
Okay.
But with hopelessness, there goes anxiety with a person that is constantly worried. But with depression, that person is worried, but they feel like, I'm not going to be able to do this. A person that has anxiety is worried, but they feel like, I could possibly do this if this, that, and the other, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
With depression, signs to look out for and things to look out for. If a person is locked in a room, like you said earlier, if that person is always out, but they're not, and the social cues, like if everybody is engaging and they kind of off to themselves, even though they push themselves forward, it's a tricky one too, because that could be social anxiety. So it's an individual base, but going back to the question at hand, with therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists, the DSM-5 is used.
Okay.
So there are a lot of key points, like some of the points that I did name, that are looked at, and then it's based off how is it affecting your lifestyle. So it's not just having those things, like, because we all have bad days.
Yep.
Sometimes we have bad weeks, and I mean, to be frank, some people have a bad month.
Listen. Or a bad year.
So being able to utilize that, and then having a correct assessment tools to be able to ask this person, like, how long have they been experiencing these things, have it been affecting their lifestyle, because some people they end up losing their jobs. Some people lose their homes when they're struggling with mental illness. So it's a lot of the DSM-5 that is used, and then the assessment tools, but it's individual based.
Okay. So it's base by base. So again, if you have somebody that you feel like is struggling with that, get them help, so that way they can be diagnosed properly. They can kind of hone in and key in on what exactly is making them feel that way, because that'll be the best way, I guess, to start the healing process. Because I feel like mental illness does take time for you to heal, because there's something that's triggering you, or there's something that's going on that's kind of bringing you down. So another thing that I wanted to ask was, what are some action plans that are set forth to help with depression or anxiety specifically?
Okay, so again, it's based off the individual because with depression, there are so many different forms. You
Mhm.
have moderate, you have mild, you have severe. With anxiety, you have anxiety, generalized anxiety, social anxiety. So, given that, there are things that you can like do as far as having a healthy diet,
Okay.
exercising. I know a lot of people were like, well, I don't want to do that, but a healthy lifestyle creates a healthy or like a healthier self,
Okay.
so it's the mind, body, soul. When they say that, it's literally a thing. If you feeding yourself crap and you're surrounded by crap, you're going to present crap unconsciously. Sometimes it's the mind that is actually taking in everything that you're giving it and feeding it, and then it's producing.
Okay. So there is something that she told me earlier before the show that we didn't know, because everybody knows, if you know me, I like to drink Red Bull. And we were talking about how sleepy we were, and I'm like, I should have brought you a Red Bull. She said, So can you explain to people when it comes to like Red Bull or caffeine, like how that can tie in with depression and anxiety? Because I know a lot of people,
Okay.
y'all probably didn't know this, because I definitely didn't.
Okay, so again, it's one of the things that you're feeding yourself. So with caffeine in itself, we could say nicotine too. It's like an enabler. So what's happening is it's triggering your body to give you other energies,
Okay.
but at the same time, it's draining another part.
Mm.
So while you feel like you are getting yourself through that hour or that sector of the day, it has to make up somewhere. So it's pulling back. So at the same time, a lot of us, we drink coffee,
Listen.
we drink tea, we drink soda, but it's not just about being able to like work out, read a book or stuff like that. It's a lot of what you put into you too. And that was one of the things that I had actually just learned reading books. I continue to read books about anxiety and depression, just because it's something that you never know that when it's going to come.
Right.
And nobody is like, you can't say, well, that's not going to happen to me. You don't know, because again, you could have eaten something way too much or whatever the case may be, and it's just that time at this point. But their studies haven't shown like a certain amount taken or anything like that. They just basically stated that those are things that can trigger a depression and anxiety.
Can I share an experience?
Of course.
So at one point, I was working third shift at Amazon and working a first shift job as well. So you need some type of pick me up to continuously make it through
Right.
a 12-hour shift
Right.
on weekends, which is ridiculous. And I would never do that again. But I was going through, it was like Christmas break, whatever. So I was kind of just going hard as I possibly could. So I would get Red Bulls or energy drinks, whatever, to kind of keep me up at night. And it kind of came to a head in like January, to where one day I got up to go put my clothes on and I just passed out, literally passed out. I had to go to the emergency room, whatever. But it ended up that whatever I was draining from my body dehydrated me. And I was told to cut back on all caffeine until I could get everything kind of balanced out. But that was definitely a what do you call it? A result of me over caffeinating myself with
Right.
energy drinks. So
the body fighting back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never passed out, never fainted in my life, and just kind of just fell and hit my head, and it could have been tragic, but luckily I'm back. I haven't had one since.
Thank God. I was gonna say, and I know Red Bulls are bad because it's like I've heard so many people tell me like, you drink Red Bull, like you should stop drinking that. Specifically, one person told me like do you drink it with liquor? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes I chase it with like Hennessy or Patron or whatever on the side. It was like, so
Gangsta.
So they was like, that's like you taking cocaine, right? And at first I thought the person was playing. And I'm like, what do you mean? It was like, it gives you the same side effects as if you were snorting cocaine. They sent me the link to it, and it was factual that if you drink Red Bull with certain liquors, it can give your body the same reaction as it would as if you were on cocaine.
Wow.
So I cut it back from my liquor, but obviously I need to cut it back a little bit more.
Yes, we're gonna do that.
So I'm gonna go home and throw my Red Bulls away. I got like 10 of them in the fridge right now. All right. So another question that I wanted to ask, because I feel like a lot of people are maybe afraid because they don't want to be medicated. Is it possible to treat depression without medication? If so, what are some of the ways you've seen personally help a person?
Well, I again like lifestyle change. So studies have shown that walking for 30 minutes a day can help decrease the possibilities or like lower depression levels.
Okay.
So working out like yoga, we in my world called mindfulness, this thing called mindfulness, where sometimes where you meditate, or like, and for some people that they are very very much religious, like prayer, things of that sort, the way that you eat, the things that you do, a lot of things that I personally do is uh well, most people call it manifestation,
Mhm.
but I talk to me in the morning, like, you are worthy, you are great, you will get this, you will do that. Like, those kind of things. It's like being positive all the way around. And I know for some that are actually depressed, that may be hard for them. So doing the whole working out thing, where you pushing yourself, and it's some therapists call it exposure therapy,
Okay.
but like for anxiety itself, like say for instance, if large crowds are your thing, and you just really can't seem to want to be forcing yourself to be able to get up and go do that, even if you're sitting in the back or standing by the door so that you can exit immediately, but basically getting up and moving. um and I know for some that are struggling, that may be the hardest thing to do. Um, Calling a friend, we talk a lot about all
Yes.
kind of things, and if you can take it a step further, sitting face to face with that friend, because studies show that when you are actually in the presence of another, it brings you more warmth than not. So a lot of times when a person is depressed, they need a pick me up.
Okay.
And it's hard when you have friends that may also be struggling with depression,
Mm.
though, because you may be going to go get a pick me up from a plug and you
Damn.
need a socket, you know?
Yep.
So it gets a little bit tricky, but there are a lot of things to do. Like I said, working out, changing the things that you eat, the things that you drink, picking up something as far as kickboxing, yoga, hanging out with friends, talking to friends, sometimes writing. We have those that love music. It's a therapy in itself. There are a lot of things that you can do on your lonesome, but then there's another thing that a lot of us really wouldn't want to do as far as therapy, because therapists in themselves are not going to just prescribe you, medications.
Okay.
They're there to listen and to help you figure out where it started, and where it's going and all of that, opposed to saying, okay, here's a prescription for that, because there's a difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist, which writes prescriptions and who are to prescribe you, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying, antidepressants or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Definitely understand. And I feel like with walking too, because like me and Tempest in the summertime, walking was our thing. This girl took me on a 3-hour walk.
It was rejuvenating.
But I can't say I was complaining like you said we was walking to see. You was like, no, we walking to the lake. But afterwards, she asked me like, "Now, don't you feel good?" And I really did feel good. We were outside, we were catching air, we were talking. Sometimes we were quiet and just kind of getting our own peace of mind together. And I feel like walking is very therapeutic. If you have those days to where you just feel like I need to shut everybody out, I'm stressed out, walk. Music for me, I love music. Sometimes I know a lot of people say like when you down, don't listen to sad music because it's gonna make you cry more. But sometimes you need that cry. You need that ugly cry to where snot falling out your nose. You got a bunch of tissues, eyes bloodshot red, because it's like how I operate is it's better out than in. I don't want to continue to be angry or walk around sad about something. Like I want all of that to be released out of me. So that's definitely true and big. I need to start back getting in the gym. We keep saying it. She been doing it, but my ass is not big. Alrighty. So then one thing I wanted to ask also about mental illness, because a lot of people may not know, can it be hereditary? Like, can it be passed down?
So that's something that a lot of scientists are on one side or the other.
Okay.
You know, it haven't been proven, but I will say that environment matters a lot.
Okay.
And what I mean by environment is a multitude of things. So think about a parent that struggles with anxiety
Okay.
and they're always worried. They're teaching their child indirectly to be worried. You know, and a lot of parents don't realize that when you talk to children about certain things that, you know, most children don't need to know, bills, losing a job, like you helping that child create everything that you have going on indirectly. And that's not at all what we're trying to do, because most of us want to be different than what our parents were.
Right.
So we may have been kept in the dark. So now we want to expose our kid to as much as possible, not understanding that what your struggles look like is now their struggles, and they're little people, so their mind is not able to differentiate things as fast as ours are. You know, so although you may not been born with it, it's not a gene that you have, but it is taught to you. You know, so and that's just like when they say the apple don't fall too far from the tree. That is a thing, you know. Hanging with certain friends that are always negative about whatever the case may be, and then you find yourself having those self-defeating languages. It's a thing that's being taught indirectly, because now it's looking, you're normalizing these bad behaviors unconsciously. So although it may not be hereditary, the environment that you are within definitely helps.
And I definitely agree with that as well. Because like I said, I've been through some things growing up, and friends are important. Who you are, like they say, birds of a feather flock together. You may not necessarily be mirror to mirror with that person, but let's just say if you around somebody that's always in drama or always fighting or just always got something going on, that pulls from your energy. If somebody's always calling you and they like, girl, you won't believe what happened today, did this and a third. And it's like, it's okay to vent to your friends. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you don't need to be a friend to somebody. You definitely do. But it's like, if it's consistent and it's just like, it's always something going on with this person and they not even trying to fix it themselves, that's going to push off on you. Because I've seen that happen to me before. Like, I'll get up, I'll have a good day, I'll be doing perfectly fine. And then one of my friends called me and they're like, girl, such and such that happened. And I'm just like, like, I just feel like every inch of energy that I just had has been sucked out of me. Especially when you sit on the phone and telling somebody like, it'll be okay, you know, you just got to do this and things will get better. And they just hit me back with like, no, it ain't. This gonna keep happening. I'm used to this. And it's just like, damn. Like, okay, so then what you call me?
So that in those instances, you want to make sure that you have plugs as friends and you have sockets as friends. And what I mean by that is people that you can plug into as well. So when you are having those days that are draining, somebody that you can talk to. What a lot of America fails to realize is that therapists have therapists, because everything is dropped on our lap. And now what are we supposed to do with it?
Right.
We got family at home, kids, wives, husbands, you know. So we have to too go and release. So having those friendships where, you know, I give, I take, I give, I take, and making sure that you are respecting your friendship and creating boundaries. When you calling your friend and you going through something, hey, how your day going today? You got time to listen, you know, because just like your day have been blown up, theirs probably was blown up too, you know. And sometimes in our worst times, we become very selfish.
Yes. You gotta make sure it's a
Because
two-way
it's about me.
street.
I need to talk right now, like, you know. So just making sure that they are okay, because, you know, passing that along is a lot. It is a lot, but it's the best thing to be able to do, to be able to have those conversations with somebody that loves you and wants what's best for you, you know.
Definitely understand. Okay. And so honing in on therapy, because I know you say a lot of people kind of may not want to go or don't know the steps to take. Explain to them how therapy can actually help with fighting depression for those who may be a little bit weary or leery about going.
So as far as therapy, you know, of course, I'm a little bit biased because I love it. But as far as therapy in itself, I will say that It is one of the best things that I feel like we can offer another human being. Being able to provide a person a open, listening ear without judgment. That's the part that you're not going to get from a friend or a family member, because that person is attached to you in a way that they're going to feel some kind of way if you telling them that somebody is beating you or
Yeah.
cheating on you, or even when you're in a slump, they like, you got this, you can get up, like they mean well. But when you go to therapy, they're talking to you about you and listening to you about you. And one of the misconceptions about therapy is that, oh, I'm finna go there and they about to fix my problems. No, you can consider a therapist a mirror. You saying it all out loud, and then that therapist is stopping you in key places and key points, and letting you evaluate that space, and letting you come up with the conclusion on what may need to change or what is working in that area, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times we can't do that alone. We can write it down, but we still don't know what to do with it.
Right.
We don't know where to compartmentalize this. Or a lot of times we feel like, I'm going to just sever that relationship. Nope, I'm not doing it anymore. Maybe that's not where it needs to be. Maybe you need help creating boundaries. With therapy, you are given tools to be able to cope opposed to cure. And that's what a lot of people are confused about. I'm gonna go there and then I'm gonna be good. Like, no, you're gonna go there and you're gonna learn how, when you're in that situation again, how to respond to that. Because I can't promise you that you'll never be in that situation again. But what I can promise you is the next time you're in that situation, you're gonna be fully equipped. So therapy to me is one of the things that I feel like we all need.
Okay.
Even when you think things are good, we all need it, because somebody is either pouring into you or you're pouring into somebody. And now what?
Right. What do you do with that? So I definitely understand that. And that actually was going to be my next question. So she answered it. What are myths about therapy? So again, like she stated, therapy is not going to fix your problems overnight. And I think a lot of people also are afraid of therapy because they feel like it makes them feel like, I've heard people say it made them feel worse, especially like with couples and stuff. If they go to therapy, people saying like, okay, well, we went to therapy and now we at home arguing.
So stats show that a lot of couples that do go through couples counseling, marriage counseling, and things like that, they end up splitting.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reasoning is because what I was just saying. Sometimes, you know what's there, but you don't really know what to do with it. And I love this saying, and I've been saying it all week, so why stop now? Zebras don't change their stripes. So you know that you love this person, and you know that that person loves you. However, you know that you don't like this feeling, and you feeling this all the time. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to do with it, but I'm going to ask you how you felt when that happened. And I'm going to ask them, how do they feel about you feeling that way? And it's going to open your eyes and their eyes. Now, therapy makes some couples stronger than they've ever been in life, but it also helps some people see that we are not compatible. That does not make you a bad person. That does not make me a bad person, but we are not the people for each other. We are forcing something that just does not fit. And a lot of us don't accept that because we live in a world where we get what we want by any means necessary. So some means be miserable. Like, I'm going to just live in misery because, I got him. You don't. Like,
he mine.
So I'm old.
Okay.
So in comparison to y'all. So I've been through life, and I went through couples therapy with my ex-wife.
Okay.
In retrospect, I can say that with maturity, if I were to be as mature as I am now back then, I'd still be married with that therapy, because I didn't have the mindset you just said. Like, I didn't have the idea that we need to work on and coping mechanisms as opposed to fixing mechanisms. I was stuck on prove to everybody here that I'm right and she's wrong.
Yep.
And I didn't hear what I wanted to hear. I was like, oh, fuck this therapist. This therapist don't know what he's talking about. Because he taking sides. Or we went to three therapists because I was like, nah, she ain't saying what I wanted to say. And we ended up getting divorced. But if I were to actually go do it all over again, I think I'd still be married.
One of the things that I've done I've had a couple clients that were couples, married couples. And the way that I usually would like to start off is to let them know that we're not here to wave a magic wand. We're here to understand how we make a person feel and to recreate how we want them to feel, and understanding that that is not going to happen overnight. You want to know why? Because you've imagine poking a hole in something day by day by day by day by day, and then just imagine a piece of tape going over it and it's all fixed. It's impossible. It's work to be put in, because the pain that you put there has to be reversed. And a lot of people make the worst mistake of wanting to revisit that pain. It's the worst. It's like having the worst car crash and getting back in that car and replaying it every day in hopes that it's going to make you feel better.
I've done that before. I definitely, like, especially if I'm going back and forth with somebody where it's a family member or a friend or a relationship to where I feel like they hurt me. It's like I want to keep talking about what you did, because it's like, do you not understand how that made me feel? And I think it does heighten the situation to where it's like, okay, I'm reliving this same scene over and over and over again because I won't let it go.
Right. We people, though, we make mistakes, and a lot of what we don't do is give the people the benefit of the doubt that we want. As we make a mistake, we want a person to be able to accept the fact that we're sorry, and we're willing to do what it takes to, fix things. But I love the fact that he mentioned the maturity too, because you definitely have to have an open mind. And I used to think that if you cheat, it's over. Like, there's no way to come back from there. But in all actuality, the fight is hard on both ends, because that person is doing everything that they can to prove to you that they will never do that again. And you have to be doing everything that you can to prove them that you're going to trust them again, which is two very hard things. And both people got homework.
I was going to say, because we all know if you don't have trust in a relationship, that shit might fail.
And you can't just bring it up every time. They could have, turned to the wrong channel. That's what happened when you cheated on me. Like, that don't work.
And that's true.
And the hardest thing is to keep that from coming out your mouth. That's your homework.
I have a friend who went through that circumstance, and he said the greatest thing that happened was his significant other never brought it back up. Never brought it back up. And that's what helped the healing. Yeah. Because if she kept bringing it back up or making little jabs or that's the other bitch did, and kind of shit like that, that actually brings you right back to square one every single time. But they grew and got stronger after the circumstance that they went through, which I knew that because I was in my circumstance, that would never happen. So I was on the conquer in therapy kind of session as opposed to healing. So
right. And I explain it to, clients as it's like having a scab. And every time you mention it, you wiping the scab off. You got to start over. You have to start over. You have to start over. And at some point, both parties going to be so exhausted that they're going to feel like they rather start over. And what people fail to realize is you end up in a cycle. You end up redating that person or remarrying that person because you still haven't found the tools to actually deal with it.
Just in different forms.
You ran from it. Because it requires a lot of work, whether it's mental illness or couples counseling or whatever the case may be. It requires a lot of work. And a lot of us, we lazy.
Don't want to put in the work.
We're going to go whatever way is the easiest.
Like, me and you ain't getting along. Let me go on, just slide somewhere else. Maybe it might be a little bit better over here. And then it's like you see yourself in different relationships and maybe the circumstances ain't the same, but it's like, it's just not working. So
you went from Bob to Billy to Joe, but they all the same one.
Just in different
because
forms.
You love that person. That buildup is, you're attracted to that. You just got to learn how to maneuver through that. And until you do, you're going to keep
bumping your head. Well, so y'all know I like to do polls. So we picked her brain. And of course, I'm excited. Like, we got a lot of information, a lot of things that I didn't know. So I wanted to talk to my followers and ask them a couple questions about mental illness, mental health, depression, anxiety, etc. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, why is there a stigma about mental health slash therapy in the Black community? I said this in the beginning of the episode. I feel like a lot of people shy away from it. They talk about it on TV shows all the time. Like, well, do you think you need therapy? And she's like, no, I don't need. Like, Insecure, for example, when Molly was suggested to go to therapy, it's like, you think I need a therapist? And she kind of got offended. But it's like Molly really did. Her character had issues that she needed to go to therapy and work through, and therapy actually worked for her. So some of the people said, I feel like we've been conditioned that therapy is only for white people, which I feel like is big because I've heard that from a couple people. Like, that's white people shit. How? Like, people are people. So why do you just consider that it's only one race? Another thing that they said is parents don't want to feel like they failed their children, so they try to sweep it under the rug. Another one was because people are afraid to heal from the we and trauma and really prosper too many demons they are afraid to face, so they're comfortable with where they are. And then somebody said people are told they are too young to be sad, or it's just life. So how do you feel about some of those responses?
So, I will say within the Black community, I believe that a lot of it has to do with mistrust.
Okay.
I mean, I'm Black, you Black. A lot of what we're taught about white people, we're conditioned to think that they have a ulterior motive. And that's a lot of why, I wanted to become a therapist, because I wanted people to be able to identify with me and people to be able to understand that I know the struggles because I've been there. I come from where you come from, so I know that, they're going to spare the rod, spoil the child, like, we get physical discipline. Like,
Right.
that's what happens.
Get our ass whooped.
So I believe a lot of it is not being able to identify with the therapist, and in our modern day terms, the vibe. You're going to talk to an old white man or an old white woman. You're like, well, what they know about what I'm about to talk about, So that in itself, and I will say, like, the person that was talking about people not wanting to deal with their past traumas and things like that, that has a lot to do with it too, because it's going to make you feel a lot worse before it make you feel better. It's one of those things that you got to go through to conquer. Like, you can't just go around. Like, we want to talk about it all. We want to talk about the earliest childhood memory that you have, to the things that made you happy, to the things that you don't want to remember no more, the things that you have not talked to anybody about, because a lot of us have things that we just gonna take to our grave, So,
all righty. So that was that question. And I definitely agree with a lot of people on responses, because I feel that way too. It's certain stuff that I've experienced, or I went through, and it's just like, I don't want to relive that. Like, it happened. I'm always that person. Like, don't let your past condition you or define who you are today. But unfortunately, sometimes it can. Especially if you're not 100% over it and you basically just like, I'm gonna put this in the back of my brain. Certain things can trigger you and you don't even know it, for those same feelings and emotions to come back up. Another question that I wanted to ask: what do you feel is a major childhood trauma that's not discussed enough? A couple of people said mothers making sons the head of the household, sexual abuse, lack of love, never being able to be a child, abandonment and disrespect from elders. I feel like that's why some of us are people pleasers. And then someone else said seeing their parents physically fight each other happens way too often. And that one I feel like is really important, because I feel like a lot of men that put their hands on women, or even women that jump to slapping a man like, oh, we into it, I'm gonna beat your ass. I feel like that's something that you've seen and you feel like, okay, this is the norm. When I'm upset, I'm gonna attack you, because this is the only way that you can understand my rage. So how do you feel about some of those responses?
I definitely, I've talked about this a lot with friends and coworkers, as far as, I feel like that as little girls, you are taught to live in the world. You taught to clean, to cook, to raise children, to do everything that you would need to do to survive, basically. And I feel like boys, when it comes to like mothers, they love their sons and they raise their daughters.
Mm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of things where women are calling their sons their king,
Yeah.
or this is daddy, or whatever the case may be. But that is not how the little girl is described ever. I have not ever seen that. Little girls are taught to wash the dishes and stuff like that, but at the same time, little boys are taught to take out garbage and whatever the case may be. A girl may get in trouble, the mama will go ham, turkey, bacon.
Mhm.
The little boy get in trouble, it's like she kind of understands it. And I don't know if maybe she feels like he needs the dad more. And I'm talking about single moms at this point. She feels like he needs the dad more, so she's like compensating for that.
Mhm.
But it's just different. It's different. The energy that you get from a mom when you are a daughter opposed to when you a son is different. And I mean, I can't say why, because I don't have boys.
Mhm.
And then, of course, my little girl's got the daddy, but you know, so in that aspect, I definitely see it. And then again, the environment as far as fighting. So that's one of the things that I struggle with when it comes to my children.
Mhm.
Physical discipline. I'm not sure when to or when not to. And you know, as a Black woman, when elders see us, they like, you better beat they, you know. But I'm not sure when it's appropriate, because I don't want to do, a negative reinforcement to the point where my kid know, well, when you upset and somebody disappoints you, you knock the shit out of them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because that's what we're indirectly teaching them. Okay, I'm mad. You made me feel some kind of way. I'm gonna whoop you.
Yep.
Like, because it is not just with fighting the dads, it's just being taught, period. Like, how many times have, we didn't wash the dishes and our mom came home, we got our ass beat.
Mhm.
Like, you didn't do that, when in actuality, now that I'm an adult, and a counselor too, now I think about it, us as adults, we forget plenty of shit. Now, what if people just beat our ass every time we forgot something? You know what I'm saying? Like, we would never stop getting whoopings. Like, I forgot almost everything, almost forgot my kids, like, so, like, but just thinking about how we're brought up, a lot of that is.
Yeah, and I think that too, because it's like I'm honest, y'all know that I've definitely been in situations to where I've been upset about something and I've put my hands on people and I shouldn't have. That was when I was younger. I tried not to now. I try to restrain myself because it's like, realistically, I don't want to fight no grown ass man. Like,
You're
I
gonna
will.
lose.
Look, I will try my damnness if I have to. I will pick
You're
up
gonna
something.
lose.
But I don't want to do that. And it's like, I don't want to be toxic either. Like, I don't want to be in the midst of toxic situations.
Let's be real. You won't lose all the time.
Sometimes you might have a good day.
You're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. But there's one nigga out there who getting his ass beat.
He letting you.
I'm
You better believe it. He's letting you.
Because I ain't gonna lie, like, y'all can call it a
He
double
is.
standard, whatever you want to. Men physically, their body types are built differently than women.
Mhm.
So it's like, especially if you smaller than your partner, like, trust me, I done been in some situations to where it's like, damn, like, I should have just not even hit you. Like, I should have just left or just walked away.
And trust, you didn't win. You outsmarted his ass.
Mhm.
You hit him from an angle, or you got him from a space. You did not overpower him.
It was one of them things. 'Cause I won a couple of battles from here and there.
You outsmarted him in that,
Outsmarted him, or he was super respectful of the fact that he was not going to overpower you.
No, or that too, but
Look.
from personal
'Cause you gonna
experience,
lose.
that person was on
Men
crutches
are
when I
hunters.
took off. I don't, that person was on crutches.
That's dirty.
No.
You heard what I said. Outsmarted him or use the ankle.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna push you down first because I know it's gonna take you a little
This
bit
nigga
longer to get
hobbling
back
around
up.
trying to catch you. You didn't.
And I definitely, once I saw him fall, I walked the fuck out the house and left. Like, I'm gonna let you get up and think about that. But yeah, so that is true too. And it's like, if you are in a situation like that to where it is toxic, like I talked about it last season, abuse is never okay, whether it's coming from a man or a woman. So if you in something like that, if you guys can't figure out how to battle each other without physical, touching, like punching, slapping, pushing, just get out. Like, it ain't worth it. Trust me, what waste of time. So another question that I wanted to ask, from personal experience, do you feel as if you could have benefited from therapy as a child? 79% of my followers said yes, and 21% said no. I'm a part of the 79%. I feel like if when I was younger, if I could have gotten therapy, and of course, as a kid, you're not thinking about it. You think about it now when you get older. Or even if I had a friend that mindset was maybe a little bit further than mine, or maybe an adult that I felt comfortable with talking to about certain situations, I would have avoided a lot of missteps or a lot of mistakes or situations that I put in that I handled the wrong way. I would have did things totally differently. So I'm a part of the 79%. I definitely would have benefited from it. Of course, I think I already know what you're gonna say, but how do you feel about that?
So I'm a part of the 79% too. I feel like there are people that feel like they have never experienced trauma. And I take my hat off to them. I've been in classes with some of them, where you would really be like, okay, like, why wouldn't you think that that's a trauma?
Mhm.
But, for some people, we normalize things so much that it's just like, oh, that happens all the time. Like how we talk about getting whoopings. That is very traumatic. Like somebody beating your ass. Like think about somebody just walking in right now and start willing on us. Like that's traumatic. Like, especially the element of surprise. And a lot of Black mamas like to do that. Like, I don't know why. It's weird. But I will say, just because I'm the youngest of my siblings, as far as my mom's kids.
Mhm.
And seeing my siblings go through different aspects of life, my brother going to jail and stuff like that. And mind you, me and him has the same birthday, where I'm celebrating my birthday, but he in jail, and I'm hoping like he get a cupcake or whatever the case may be. Like those are traumatic experiences. Like those are experiences that if I would have had somebody who can help me through that during that time, my mom would be like, because I would go talk to my mom. She'd be like, oh, he okay, girl. He shouldn't have did what he did. When he get out, I bet he won't go back in. That's her response. But that's still not taking away the fact that I feel how I feel about that. Right. And a lot of us, again, we can't even identify what the traumas are, so we wouldn't know that, oh man, if I would have had somebody to talk to about that. And it could be the simplest thing, because what people fail to realize is you don't have to only go to therapy when, the sky is falling. Like you can go to therapy when everything is okay, because sometimes it's just a little life coaching, where a person is helping you put things in different categories so that you can elevate at your best, opposed to, you having to trial and error it, go through this door. Like you said, you would do some things differently or whatever the case may be. So I definitely feel like it would have helped me learn to cope with certain situations a lot better.
You got any feedback, Tommy? Do you feel like therapy as a child would have helped?
I didn't understand therapy, so I wouldn't be able to actually identify I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see some hereditary responses to conflict and stress. My mother waited until it bothered her the most to actually attack us,
Most of
and
us.
I was quiet. She was quiet all the way up to the point where she was like, "I'm sick of the shit," kind of thing, and I respond the same way. So looking back on that now, I can speak on it and actually try to work myself out of it. But I don't think it would have been beneficial for me when I was younger, because I didn't identify with it well enough to be able to know I needed it.
So for therapy for kids is a little bit different than what it is for us, because we do have the capacity to understand a little bit more. Sometimes with kids, you use like art therapy or whatever the case may be, where they drawing and they getting things out that way. Because we have to continue to realize too that it's not really going to fix a situation, more so than helping us be able to release. And because some of us as kids, we ain't had nobody. But yep, I totally get the fact that like the kid brain is not there. And I will say my hardest clients are kids, because they'll go from one thing to the next and get to looking around the room, running around the room, and you're like, okay, come back, come on.
They're like, what's this over there?
Right. But so I definitely, now that's like having a wheel spin. Like how would we, be able to execute that to the point where the kid don't feel like something wrong with them?
Right.
Because if adults can feel that way, kids would.
For sure. For sure, for sure. And that's why I asked my followers too. I wanted to know, like, how do you feel it would have helped you as a kid? Somebody said they actually had it. So they had therapy as a kid and it was great. It helped them understand themselves and anxiety and how to deal with it. So shout outs to you, shout out to your parents or whoever around you that was able to identify it and feel like, okay, I'm gonna get you the help that you need. Because she's a dope person. I follow her on social media. She's thriving within her business. She's always positive, laughing on social media. And of course, people can say, like, oh, you can be whoever you want to be on social media. But I've been around her too, and she really is a good vibe. Somebody said I had thoughts I wasn't able to discuss with my mom, and at the time she was trying her best. So that's another thing too. They felt like, okay, if maybe I would have got therapy as a child, I'm not burdening my mom with something, and I can actually push it off on somebody else, like everything that I'm feeling or going through. Another person said I'm still traumatized and I'm an introvert, but I wish I wasn't. And it's because of experiences they had as a child. Somebody also said they feel like it would have helped them build confidence. You walk in your truth and you grow to love your imperfections. And then somebody else said better reactions, communication skills, channeling my emotions better. And I can agree with all that because I feel like kids that are taught certain things when they're younger, they carry that when they're older. Like they say, the best time to teach your kids different languages is when they're younger because they can kind of soak it up and catch on quick. Same thing as if as a child, you know how to handle yourself in certain situations, you're going to carry that with you when you get older. And it's going to help you maneuver and make your way through life. So yeah, those were all the polls and the questions that I did. This is an episode that was very dear and near to my heart because I feel like I know people that are battling depression. I've battled it. I feel like in the past, or even had anxiety, just worrying about stuff that, for one, was out of my control half of the time, or things that it's like, if I would have just kind of, took different routes and steps to handle it, it probably wouldn't have affected me as bad as it did. Or it wouldn't have took me as long to realize like everything gonna be okay. Like it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be better days. We can just put this day behind us. The great thing about days is there's always another one that's gonna follow to be able to change what happened the day before.
Before you go,
Mhm.
I have a question, but one, I want to say what you said about depression, and I'm therapizing. Is this how you say it? I'm therapizing.
Gonna make up some
I
words.
made
We put it up.
hey, William Shakespeare made up like 20,000 words that we use today. We're gonna therapize. One, I learned through therapizing that depression is a state. It's a stage in your life that you're not a depressed person. You're going through a depressed moment. So the fact that you kind of move your way out of that, I don't know if that is that accurate.
So I guess to like answer and not answer at the same time, there is a thing called like seasonal depression,
Mm-hmm.
where in this season, in this moment, you go through that stage,
Mm-hmm.
but it is reoccurring. So you get those skills and those tools, and it helps you learn how to cope.
Gotcha.
So if you might not be as far in that hole as you was when you first experienced it,
Mhm.
but now you know, like. And a lot of us, we pay attention to ourselves unconsciously. So say for instance, around the holidays, I know that I'm usually in a funk. So this holiday, I'm about to try to go all in and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that as far as decorating and buying people gifts. And I noticed I felt better. So next year, I'm gonna keep that same approach. It didn't go away. I learned how to deal with it. I learned how to manage it.
Yes. So speaking of that, because I don't know if you're speaking from legitimate experience as a therapist, who therapizes you?
So okay. So when I went to school, we would have group therapy sessions where we actually had to go through it. Like we were actually getting graded on pouring out our heart and our soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then our classmate was our therapist.
Okay.
And when we may say something that may be triggering or maybe not as correct as it should be, our professors were therapists. They worked at other, clinics.
Yeah.
Right. They will, kind of help smooth that over or whatever the case may be. And then when you go to whatever clinic you go to and you work at, you have like how we are all here together. We talk about like case by case situations or whatever the case may be. And we get different input from our coworkers and things that we can do different. We kind of touch bases on how we feel. And then a lot of us actually go to outside therapists.
Okay,
so we have a number of
okay, all right,
and a lot of us do, like your therapist.
I'm assuming that you're sitting and you got people on the couch, because it's not psychology, but you're still having people there. I'm not psychiatry, so you're not having people laying on couches, but that's got to be like wearing on you to actually have back to back to back to back sessions of just woe is me, and then you come out of there like, all right, I'm gonna go have dinner, kind of shit.
Right, you know.
you need some recovery as well. So
Mhm.
it's always curious to know how that worked.
And some of us, we set our days up how we would like. So some of us, and then you do it based off how you like. And there's so many different forms of therapy. The one I love the best is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
CBD.
CBT, you know, cognitive
THC?
behavioral
I
therapy.
was gonna say some people
Um,
smoke.
like, and some clinics do provide the oils. Let's be clear, too.
Okay, I was just making sure I was clear.
But you know, you make those times, like those breaks in between clients, to actually not just write up your notes or progress notes or whatever the case may be, but to debrief as well. And sometimes things can be so heavy where you have to go pull a supervisor or a colleague
You gotta
and
find
sit
some
and
stuff
talk
out
with
some other
right.
people. Okay, that's dope. That's good to know.
So-
I didn't know that, and I got therapist friends. I never heard that.
because it's a lot. You
Mhm.
like you said, it's just imagining hearing somebody, like you were saying, a friend that's calling you draining or whatever the case may be, and then you have 5 people that you're dealing with every day
Mhm.
or whatever the case, 6 people, 7 people, and this is a daily basis, you know what I'm saying? And then sometimes some of the stuff be so disturbing that you some therapists, everybody do it different, but some may be in there crying with their client because of whatever the case may be or whatever, you know. So you definitely have to have those like outlets, and that's something that we are taught in school, and we normalize the fact that we all need it. Like,
Okay, I'm all into this. So one more. I'm sorry, one more.
You go ahead.
So being a single man, sometimes you date and you end up dating people who are therapists. I'm so lucky to have had that happen 3 times.
Look, Tommy know how to pick them, y'all. He like,
It's not purposeful, but as we talking, I find out that's what they are, and then I feel like I'm being therapized sometimes when I'm just having like open conversation, and it's just like, I'm gonna generalize. You guys are so like sponge absorbing of like blah blah blah, and then can kind of bounce ideas off of. How do you keep that from being like a deterrent? For, I don't know if you're married or in a relationship or
I'm
whatever.
married.
Okay.
y'all see this rock on my girl, man. Yeah. I was at the wedding, y'all. I was in the wedding. It was cracking.
Do you have advice for a man like me trying to? I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be a patient.
So
But I
I
end up being a patient somehow, and it's not even really a relationship. But I want to get past that kind of thing.
will say that it's something that most of us can't help. So it's like,
Yes.
and a lot of us don't know that we can't help it, but it's the way our mind is set up.
Mhm.
Like a lot of us went for this and we do this because it's the way we think.
Mhm.
Like I said, when I was a child, I wanted to know cause and effect of everything. I felt like, well, why do they think like that?
Yeah, that.
Or why do they do that?
You have to find,
Like,
out, you have to find out the
and
why.
I blow people with that. Let's be clear. Friends too. Like where they'll be like, okay, because I need to know the nitty of the gritty and I can't help it. And then once they give me the, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm doing a little bit much. Because we think to ask questions that most people don't. Or most people
Mhm.
don't even want to know because it's too much. Like, well, I'm not going to ask them that because what I'm going to do with that? Like,
So you must have been doing your clinicals before you got married.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Yep, I was done. And sometimes I have to catch myself because I'll be like, we'll be talking about something. I'll be like, how'd that make you feel?
Right. That's it.
But I will say, as her friend, like, and I tell people, like, sometimes you don't even realize it. It's a plus to have somebody like that.
It
around.
is. I'm trying to balance the two.
And that's the thing, like she said, like she's always been open and honest. Like if I'm doing too much, tell me. If I'm asking a question that you don't feel like talking about, let me know and I'll stop.
I feel like I'm taking advantage of the fact, like, are you gonna bill me after I get done talking to you? Like,
But it's intriguing. It's like having, a chef as a mate. They're going to cook for you.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna feed you so good. Like they're gonna cook for you.
that is true.
Or having an artist, somebody that raps or sings, they just gonna be breaking out verses for no
Listen,
reason. Like,
check my new shit out. Check
right?
my
You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
got
and you like,
bars.
I'm so tired of them. Like, it's just,
That's true.
it just
All right.
is what it is.
Take the good with the
But
bad.
that's
Right.
one of the things that we are taught to in school, to be mindful of that. That when, because my kids hate it. You know,
I bet.
I'd be like, what happened at school today? They tell me what happened. Oh, okay. So how you feel about that?
But just think
Well,
about how they're going to be growing up. When they're grown, they're going to be so in tune with understanding how to actually articulate themselves. I couldn't. My mama was quiet until she was like pulling me out the bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to wash the dishes. Like, how come the dishes ain't washed? I was on the floor because she pulled me by my legs. That was her response. Not how why did I not do the dishes? Like I fell asleep. I was tired. It was
Now, imagine getting a spanking and then having to talk about it. I'd be like, girl, just relax.
Okay, I'm sorry, Bree.
Listen, pick her brain as much as you can.
You can have
Like,
it. You have the best guess.
I'm like, Mom, I love you. And I did not whoop you because blah, 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 blah. I did it because, and you understand that, blah, blah, blah. So what should you do different next time? And they'll tell me.
I have a better relationship with my children because of that. Like I did not want to do that. And sometimes I apologize for actually doing that.
You
this
should.
is why I did it.
Yep, you should. Parents, I feel like all parents should understand and respect the fact that our children are people too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are smarter than us. Mm-hmm. Little do we know. Mm-hmm. And apology goes a long way because sometimes we incorrect. Like, and sometimes we come at them incorrect because we done had a off day today. And now they did one thing and that was the tip of the iceberg. And it's like, you need to let them know, I am so sorry. Today I had a bad day. And it is not your fault that I had a bad day. I'm in control of my days. You did not deserve that response. I am upset about what you did, but blah, 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 Oh. And that's what they do. Oh. Yep. And then they give me a hug and be like, you the best, mommy.
See, she dropping gems for parenting. So y'all, you get a lot from these episodes. So again, I want to thank you tremendously for coming in and kind of explaining things as far as like how you can spot people that may have a mental illness, how you can kind of get them help, benefits of therapy and actually attacking the issue at hand, and how you can, again, like she said in the beginning, you can thrive with depression and anxiety and other mental illnesses. Just got to know how to work through it. So I appreciate you.
No problem.
So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of What's Up, Bree. I hope to see you back next week. You guys have a good rest of your week and weekend, and we out.
Of my energy, I look up and the whole room spins.